Hi friends, greetings from my home and welcome to our Sunday morning worship service. Thanks to Susan Bernor, Bill Motter, and the worship committee for asking me to say hello and share a little about my seminary journey. My name is Patty Hanks and I'm a member of this congregation and also a UU ministerial aspirant, just finishing my 4th semester a few days ago, surviving 4 10-page papers, 3 online Zoom classes, 2 presentations, 1 final exam, and a partridge in a seminary tree. A couple of joys and concerns. I'm sorry to report that while walking their dogs, Danny Shrepek fell and broke her wrist. She had surgery on Friday, and even though this church service was recorded before her surgery, Danny said to say that everything turned out great. We are sending you love and thoughts of healing, Danny. I can also report that Betsy Fills is doing well in rehab after falling and breaking her hip last week. She has been living with her daughter in Wisconsin. Susan reports that Betsy was at the weekly women's Zoom walking group this past Monday and seems to be in great spirits. Please let Susan or Pastor Jack know about your joys and concerns so that we can share our love with you. I know that many of you are reporting the good news of getting first and second vaccinations. I got my Moderna vaccines at my local grocery store. I kept thinking how surreal it was to be having this most important, long-awaited, hopefully life-changing moment and having it in the cheese aisle at Publix, looking at string cheese and grated cheddar while I got my shots. Another joy for me, our covenant group met for the first time in 15 months, in person in our backyard last night. It was glorious. May we all be well.
Hello friends, we're Lance and Amy Long and bring you greetings from our home in Utah. It's wonderful to be with you this morning.
Although thousands of miles separate us, our hearts are there with you in Florida, and we can't wait till August when we return to teach again at Stetson and return for our 4th year attending the wonderful UU St. Pete congregation. We light our chalice now as a symbol of our search for truth, our shared communion, and in the light of understanding and caring. Join, if you will, in the words of our covenant.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our invocation and moment for meditation this morning is from Naomi Shihab Nay, who describes herself as an Arab American poet whose goal is to share words about heritage and peace that overflow with a humanitarian spirit. Let's close our eyes now, if you like, for 5 deep breaths and feel the peace of this moment and take in the words of Naomi's poem entitled Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore, only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. And now we will be pleased to have a song from our beloved John Arterton and James Mack.
So many things we can't control.
So many hurts that happen every day.
So many heartaches that pierce the soul.
So much pain that won't ever go away.
How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight.
Nobody really wants to go to war.
If everyone wants to make things right,
then what are we always fighting for?
Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hand. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And it's not enough to talk about it,
not enough to sing a song.
We must walk the walk about it, you and I, do or die. We've got to try to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be
Good morning. My name is Janae Johnson, and I'm your Religious Education and Communications Coordinator here at Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg, Florida. This morning, I will be sharing our story for all ages, selected by our very own Patty Hanks. Thank you, Patty Hanks, for selecting this story. I absolutely enjoyed it myself. Now, for those who do not know, this story is a short clip encompassing love, joy, a little bit of mishap, mischief, unconditional love, of course, reciprocity, and bonding with someone that's different. So I would like for you to think about your perspective when you see this clip and take it in for what it's worth for you. I hope you enjoy it as I did. Have a wonderful Sunday. And those that are enjoying this outdoors in our back patio, I see you all. Thank you so much for supporting RUU St. Pete.
Thank you, Janae Johnson, for your words and for sharing this video story of a wise and kind little doggie who saw a situation and got involved in making things better for a mama bird and her babies. We are all turned toward thinking about making things better and more just in our country, and our individual and collective acts of awareness, action, and compassion can move us toward justice. In the spirit of building community, inside and outside the church, let's take a moment to read some of Martin Luther King's response to a letter he received from 8 white Alabama clergymen on April 12, 1963, in which they called for patience and asked him to stop the protests, which they viewed as unwise and untimely. This is part of his response from what is known as Letter from Birmingham City Jail. Some of the strongest, most profound words we have from Martin Luther King Jr., and certainly continues to speak to our time. King wrote, "For years now I have heard the word wait It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nation of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence, but we still creep at horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, and even kill your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to the amusement park that has just been advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see ominous clouds of inferiority beginning to form in her little mental sky, and see her beginning to distort her personality by developing an unconscious bitterness toward white people. When you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son who is asking, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? I have traveled the length and breadth of Alabama, Mississippi, and the other southern states. On sweltering summer days and crisp autumn mornings, I have looked at the South's beautiful churches with their lofty spires pointing heavenward. I have beheld the impressive outlines of her massive religious education buildings. Over and over, I have found myself asking, what kind of people worship here? Who is their God? Yes, these questions are still in my mind. In deep disappointment, I have wept over the laxity of the church. But be assured that my tears have been tears of love. There can be no deep disappointment when there is not deep love. Yes, I love the church. How could I do otherwise? I am in the rather unique position of being the son, the grandson, and the great-grandson of preachers. Yes, I see the church as the body of Christ. But oh, how we have blemished and scarred that body through social neglect and through fear of being nonconformists.
As I mentioned in my welcome, I'm attending seminary. I'm learning so much. I'm studying hard and evolving in so many ways. I didn't really know what to expect in seminary. The Mormonism I grew up in ran completely on lay ministry, so no one in my family chose it as their vocation. Thanks be to Pastor Jack for so many things, including giving me guidance on how to spot a seminary that would encourage me to thrive. I've been surprised by what seminary is, especially by how academically rigorous it is, and also how equally personal and deeply spiritually formative it is. I've wrestled with it and with all the questions it brings up for me. I must be a UU, right? Because all the wonderings and ponderings feel like a good thing. Because of COVID, all the students have been like me, distance learners in all Zoom classroom environments. My Master's of Divinity, they call it MDiv in UU Studies, is one of the degree programs offered at United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities, a school sponsored by UCC, the United Church of Christ. I attend with mostly Christian students and faculty who I would describe as diverse, big-hearted, liberal, progressive, and super active in social justice issues of all kinds. I've learned a lot about liberation theology, the Christian framework that Jesus' mission was to encounter the human condition and be a liberator of the poor, the weak, and the oppressed. You can imagine how much the murder of George Floyd and other killings in the Twin Cities has impacted my experience there. One of my professors had to stop class because of the tear gas pouring through his windows. My teachers, Many who are members of the local Minneapolis clergy mask up regularly and go to the streets to march behind and in solidarity with local Black church leaders. Many of them have worn, with their religious collars, t-shirts that say, "The church has left the building." The irony of this didn't escape any of us. At a time when church folks weren't even in their buildings because of COVID, they were reminding us that much of the work of church has nothing to do with the building. Because I've been so connected with people who live walking distance from the courthouse and the heartbeat of the recent trial, I know about something that was not covered in the media and very much, and was referred to briefly by one of George Floyd's aunts in the press conference after the verdict was read. She was one of the last people to speak. She expressed through tears her gratitude to the people who had been there at the courthouse every day, holding vigil and offering support to their family. She said, "You are more than protesters and allies to us. You are family. Every day you were there for us, and I knew we could make it if we just put one foot in front of the other." While the family was at the courthouse, having to relive over and over the footage of George being killed, a group of local churches, many of them affiliated with United Theological Seminary, organized a constant support group outside. They brought handmade signs, they said prayers, they brought food for the family, they watched over them and let them know that they were not alone. They were organized by the Jerry and Sabinas, and Sue Prices, and Karen Coles, and Reggie Craigs of Minneapolis. They were showing the kind of kindness that Naomi Nye wrote about in the poem that Amy read this morning. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. I was told that on many days, George Floyd's family members came out to pray. The people gathered there would circle around them while they prayed for strength and justice. Isn't this a powerful image of the church alive and energized for good? An example of what happens when the church is on the move. It comes from trying to understand what somebody else is going through. I believe this is where compassion and justice spring from. The Floyd family hunkered down in Minneapolis, Minnesota County Courthouse. And that made me think about Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from the Birmingham City Jail, which we read from start to finish in my comparative religious ethics class, the most challenging and affronting class I've taken to date. King's letter, a few excerpts read by Lance, was addressed to a group of white clergy who had criticized his use of nonviolent civil disobedience in Birmingham, Alabama, asking him to tone down his rhetoric and slow his roll. His response is so powerful and resonates for us today. His words haunt me and they motivate me. I cannot wait to be back together in church space with you and talk about this and make plans about so many things. I miss being in our beautiful church together. I miss the sermons and watching the bamboo swaying in the window behind the pulpit. I miss singing together, greeting all of you, hanging out in coffee hour, watching Janae interact with the children. I look forward to what we will do in the building and continue to do outside the building. I think the word regroup was invented for what we will be doing in the year ahead at our church and in so many aspects of our lives. Have you noticed the number of articles and podcasts that are focused on helping us understand what the heck this kind of extended worry and isolation does to human wiring? A psychologist told Krista Tippett, the host of On Being, that as the light at the end of the COVID tunnel is tenuously appearing, many of us are surprised at how exhausted we feel. She explained that our natural defense in times of crisis is to run, fight, or freeze. But our bodies aren't good at doing all of these things, flight, fight, or freeze, for a year. I hear lots of words describing the way people are feeling. Worried, impatient, agitated, exhausted, distracted. I feel like I have less bandwidth in general. I find myself looking for grace and trying to give more grace. And the working definition of grace I'm using is just understanding that this is a hard stretch of time and we probably all need an extra measure of compassion. The warmth of love, as we say every week, to carry us out into the world. And I'll add, and back into our building. And as an amen, I'll say what Octavia Butler says in the parable of the sower. So be it. See to it.
To keep our congregation thriving, we remind all of us about the importance of our offerings and the renewal of our yearly pledge of love and support to UUSP. We're wrapping up our pledge campaign, and it's so important this year as we plan for reopening the church and welcoming a new interim minister. Please go to our webpage to make your pledge for next year if you haven't yet.
As you listen to our offering music, you can click on the I in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to make a contribution. You can also donate using our Give Plus app at our webpage, using the Giving tab, or sending a check to the church office. So many ways. However you contribute to this church community, we offer many thanks. We wish you all peace until we meet again in YouTube or Zoom church, and especially look forward in being together in our beautiful church home on Mirror Lake. If you're in need of an extra measure of support during these uncertain and isolating times, reach out to a friend in our church community, to your covenant group, or contact Pastor Jack. And as we extinguish our chalice, let us say the words that remind us how we may bring forth new light. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Everybody sing. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Sing a little louder. One love, one love, one heart. One, let's get together and feel alright. Oh, now you can join the choir. One love, one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One last time now, everybody. One love, yes, even you. One heart. Let's get together and feel alright.